All right, and now joining us, Congressman Buddy Carter. He sits on the House Budget Committee. One of the things I wanted to point out, a lot of people feel like this jobs report wasn't terrible, but there's one thing that struck me, Congressman, was wage growth. I think it was 5.2% last month. But inflation's over 8%. So you are not keeping up with inflation, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's simple math. You got to figure that, yeah, you're making more, but things are costing more too. And this is a real burden on the American household. And it's basic household items that have gone up so much. Yes, there's pain at the pump. There's no question about this. But groceries now, people ask me all the time, why is the energy crisis? What's that got to do with groceries? Well, think about it. Fertilizer, diesel fuel, all that, getting that product to market, all that factors into it. And it is hurting people at the grocery store. It's hurting them in their wallet. Yeah, they can be happy that their salaries are going up, but it's not keeping up with inflation.
That's right. Mr. Biden says we can tackle inflation from a position of strength. Here's what he said.
There's no denying that high prices, particularly around gasoline and food, are a real problem for people. But there's every reason for the American people to feel confident that we'll meet these challenges. Because of the enormous progress we've made on the economy, the Americans can tackle inflation from a position of strength.
Congressman, I don't even know what that means.
Nor do I. And I honestly think, this president seems to be tone deaf. I don't think he gets it. I don't think he understands what's going on. I don't think he understands how people are really struggling out there. Now, there are members of his own party who are beginning to realize that they've got to do something about inflation, that we've got to get this under control, or there's going to be a red tsunami come in November. And I think they recognize that. That's why they're trying to get its attention.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing gas go up, oil production. By the way, even if they were to start allowing more oil production, instead of so many regulations that are disincentives for oil companies to invest, it takes billions of dollars to actually go from point A to where you identify the well and dig and identify where it is and actually get it out of the ground and get it to refineries and then to your gas pump. That takes a long time and a lot of money. So these companies are resistant to do that because they're afraid it's going to be like Charlie Brown kicking the football again.
Well, you're exactly right. Energy works in a futures market. And if they don't see an investment in energy infrastructure, they're not going to invest. And that's why we're in the position that we're in now. The first thing that Joe Biden did when he canceled the Keystone XL pipeline, when he got into office, that sent a strong message right then that there was a war on fossil fuels by this administration, and it has continued and got us into this mess that we're in right now. Now, he can try to blame it on Vladimir Putin. He can try to blame it on big oil. He can try to blame it on COVID. But the truth is, it's the policies of this administration that have got us in the mess that we're in right now.
Okay, I wanted to get your thoughts on this. According to the Center for Immigration Studies, President Biden has brought 1.35 million illegal immigrants since taking office into our country. You just took a trip to the border, I believe. Give us what you saw and what, if anything, surprised you.
Well, first of all, this is the fifth time I've been to the border in the 8 years I've been in Congress. Joe Biden has yet to go to the border. Even as president, as vice president, as a senator, he's never been to the border. What I saw here was what I was hoping not to see, and that is that it's only gotten worse since the last time I was down there. I was down there about a year ago with President Trump. The overcrowding still exists. The overwhelmed Border Patrol agents, they're still, just as the morale is low, they're discouraged, but they're doing yeoman's work. They're doing great work, but they're not doing the work that they were trained for, and that is law enforcement. They told us that it was like using a bucket by a fire hydrant. Don't bring me another bucket. Turn the tap off. That's what needs to happen. But the thing that needs to happen now at the border is that we need to continue to build the wall. That wall needs to be built. We need to enforce the Remain in Mexico policy. And please do not end Title 42. Right now, we're seeing 8,000 to 10,000 encounters per week. If they were telling us that if the Title 42 goes away, you can expect that to jump up to 18 to 20,000 just because of that. Groups are already congregating south of the border, waiting on Title 42 to be canceled so that they can come across.
Wanted to ask you, with a name like Carter in the state of Georgia, I'm sure when you started out, you had some explaining to do. But you're a Republican, and I wanted to get your assessment of what's going on in Georgia with politics, what we can expect in November. We've seen a lot of dramatics, a lot of dynamics shifting. What's your assessment of what's going on right now, and what do you expect in November?
Well, we've got our slate set now, and I think the Republicans in the state of Georgia learned their lesson about 15, 16 months ago during the senatorial runoffs when they didn't show up to vote, and we ended up with 2 Democratic senators. We're not going to let that happen again. We're going to be there at the polls come November, and we're going to be solidly behind the Republican candidates to make sure that Brian Kemp is reelected governor of the state of Georgia, that Stacey Abrams does not get anywhere close to the governor's mansion. That would be one of the worst things that would happen in this state in a long time.
And then you got the Senate race.
The Senate race, and we've got a great candidate. Herschel Walker is going to win. Let me tell you, Herschel Walker is salt of the earth. He is pure Georgia all the way. He represents our values in the state of Georgia, and we're going to make sure that he gets to be a United States Senator.
All right, Congressman Buddy Carter. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.